Now, do I need to be spotlighted? It's so when we record, it's just my image, protecting the privacy of everybody else. Okay, so then you have to change this, your view, because this automatically happens. It's a process. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. Yeah. So one of our students has COVID. It's back. So he's not here. And I'm not even sure he was here last Sunday. So, yeah. But just so you know. Oh, and Brian, those of you who know Brian, who comes in his scooter every now and then, had a fall and has hurt his knee. Nicole had a fall and hurt her knee. It's an ongoing for Rebecca. We have knee issues, knee karma. Oh boy. So Nana found a prayer, asked Rinpoche for advice. You know, there are all these wildfires going on. So she asked Garden Rinpoche his advice for the folks. That's not it. Oh. Just a second. So I thought we could recite this prayer. I don't know if people are familiar with Frosty Abbey, with Thubten, Venerable Thubten Children's abbess. Her place is in danger at the moment. It's in Washington State. But so Tara practice, green, no, we didn't move the medicine Buddha. But there's green Tara and white Tara next to her. So Tara is a Buddha of enlightened activity, but that like she's, you know, like the standard prayer is that Tara liberates from all fear, you know, and it also eliminates, you know, all sicknesses and freezes from cyclic existence. But so it's a good one for, so I think Rinpoche was thinking about, you know, all these people who are near a fire, you know, it hasn't happened to them yet, but how terrified they must be, you know, so trying to cope with that. Or here's a little verse we can share. So it's that top verse. This one, everybody can see that? Okay. So you can kind of just picture an image of a beautiful bodhisattva, you know, blessing, you know, space, you know, just all the beings who are at this moment experiencing fear, suffering, whatever it is. But in particular, all those around the world that are in danger from wildfires. Om. Homage to you, the protector who liberates from the 8 fears. Homage to you, blazing with auspicious glory. Homage to you, closing the door to evil destinies. Homage to you, guiding to the higher realms. You have always been by my side. Continue evermore to protect me with compassion. And then that's the green Tara mantra, the Tara mantra. Om Tare Tutare Ture Soha. 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 So thanks for that. Oh, Brian's. We're thinking of you. All right. So now we can check in with ourselves, check in with your body, making sure you're here, present here, back from the wildfires, sitting here and thinking about what was the reason you came. And then trying to generate a positive intention to use this time well that relates to that reason you came. Like whether it's you want to work on your mind, you just, you want to be, in community, you're curious, you're suffering today, looking for some answers. Happy today, wanting to share it, help others. And just combine it with that expansive wish of wishing that it will benefit all sentient beings. By benefiting you, it will ripple out to benefiting those around you, which will ripple out to benefit those around them. And out and out and out it goes. If you can just imagine your heart's like dropping a pebble, in the water, it's just rippling now. So let's recite the 4 immeasurables. Shall I put it up or? Okay, thanks, Nana. And it's on page, whatever. Okay. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. And the refuge prayer. So if you're comfortable reciting this, I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly by the merits I create through listening to the Dharma. May I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly by the merits I create through listening to the Dharma. May I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Okie dokie. So how y'all doing today? How'd you find your body and your mind when you looked? Because that's the first step, is that we always need to kind of know where we are. Otherwise, our body, our mind, our thoughts, our speech, and our actions of body, are going to be just following an unknown. If you're not checking, and you're feeling a little whatever, irritable or whatever, your speech is likely to follow that. Your actions are likely to follow that. So it's important to check up and be able to go, don't want to come from that place. Doesn't mean you can just make that go away. It just means that you can choose not to act from that place. Choose to guard your speech from, coming from that place. It's just not, it's not a cure-all, but it helps, because then you don't have that additional thing of regretting what just came out of your mouth, or regretting the expression on your face, when you recognize that, oh, that may have hurt someone else. Is that good? So it really matters to check up, to just kind of go, oh, okay, especially, right before you walk into a room, maybe before you start your car, so that you drive with, mindfulness, instead of like feeling panic because you're in a hurry, and then you drive like a maniac instead of accepting the fact you're just going to be late. That's okay. People are late. Better to be late than not there at all because you got in a terrible wreck. And we forget those things. So we really want to, be aware, and recognize that maybe we're being driven by things that really aren't very important, like the fear of being late, or the dislike of not getting what you want, or whatever it is, just the worry that, that where you're going is going to be different than what you expect, or it's going to be exactly what you expect. So, we don't want to be controlled by these things. We want to choose how we speak and how we act based on our own values, what's important to us, loving kindness and compassion, so it's, and we can only do that if we notice that we're a little off kilter. And so we're going to have to be more mindful, we're going to have to kind of pause. Now, can people hear me? I feel like I can't be heard today. I'm kind of loud because I do have a mic. You just don't use it. Okay, just checking. Oh. Or maybe that's why I don't. There's a mic on. Vibrating. See, I can't hear any of that. I have no idea what's coming out to you guys. So I have it on just so that if someone asks a question from home, we can hear it. But we'll do it differently if it's reverberating. So thanks, Anthony. So does that make sense? So somebody was asking for, what are the steps? Well, that's a step, is noticing where you are in this moment, and then choosing whether you're going to follow that mood, or whether you're going to, not follow it. Choice. We have choice. When we don't notice and we just respond in a way out of habit, we're not making choices. We're just on remote control. And often we're controlled by our disturbing states of mind, not our loving kindness, happy kind of, state of mind, kind, generous, whatever. And so if we want to have, to act from a place that we know we're capable of, like compassion and patience and kindness and wisdom, stuff, we have to nurture that. We have to encourage it. We have to interrupt our habits of just reacting and actually choose to act that meets with, who we like to be, not what's being driven by, what often is talked about, the 8 worldly concerns, dharmas, concerns. I always call them the 8 worldly dramas. And so the 8 worldly dramas are, our chase for, success, our avoidance of failure. That dichotomy is always there. The desire for pleasure and not pain. That's always going on. The desire for praise and not criticism, that's always going on. And what's the other one? Because there's a list of 4, so I can only remember 3. I mean, there are 8, but gain and loss. We're always seeking gain and, trying to avoid loss. And that's all about us, right? That's where we're the center of the universe, and we're just thinking about what we want in our little circle of mind. My family, my friends, my loved ones, my pets, all of that. So we need to be aware that kind of, to notice, oh, that's what's driving me, and that can taint our behavior. It just pervades it, and we get, we become impatient, selfish, unkind, whatever. Is this all making sense? Do we do it? Sometimes it's a start. That's the nice thing, is if you get in the habit of looking, and that becomes a habit, then you're giving yourself the opportunity to choose. If you don't get in the habit of looking, you don't have that opportunity. So that's really important, So how can you make yourself look? How can you develop that habit?
Reflection.
I left my bell here. Reflection. Yep. Really just, reflecting on what's going on internally instead of always thinking about what's happening out here. Sometimes we need to practice, like when we wake up in the morning, so that we get a sense of what that feels like. And then we practice, like I said, when we're getting in our car, or maybe it's that you go downstairs and you see your family, so you kind of think, oh, let me check up here, and you can have Post-it notes. Check up. Where are you? So that you can remember to do it. And then when you get in your car, check up. So you can use the different things that happen every day or most days as like a guidepost, whatever you call them, to kind of go, oh, I'm first. What's my first step? Is just to look, observe what's going on with yourself without any expectation of, that wherever you are is somehow has to be right or perfect or good or whatever. It's just noticing, because you want that opportunity to choose, your the way you want to think. So you can set aside, the worry, go, okay, well, now I'm driving. So now I just want to focus on driving, and not carry this worry list in my head, because that's going to distract me, And then, 2 seconds later, when you're distracted, you go, oh yeah, that's right, I forgot I'm driving a car. So I'm not texting. So, things like that. But you need to build these in. And so what do we need in order, so we just make ourselves a thing like, okay, this is what I do every day. These are the transitions I make through the day. I wake up, I get out of the shower, I have breakfast or something with my family. I get in my car, I go to work, whatever they are, and you kind of, make a decision that you're going to use those as opportunities to look. Okay. So what helps you follow through? Yeah.
Prayer, asking for guidance, to be shown, what I need to work on and when, and that's working.
Okay.
Practice.
Practicing is really helpful. And just remembering, like, oh, that's right, I want to do this.
Yeah.
There's something in it for me, as well as obviously in it for others, because we'll treat people better when we act from a conscious place, not just on rote. Go ahead, Lucian.
For me, it's the power of the pause. When I pause,
Yeah.
then I can, okay. So I have to remember the pause.
And the power of the pause. Absolutely. Gladys?
What I noticed for me, it's been also knowing my limitations. There's so much energy I have during the day, and I have to manage my time well to be able to take that step back.
Yeah, knowing our limitations. And that's part of what shows up if we notice where we are. If we realize, God, I'm awfully tired today, or I'm just, kind of dreading today, then we can kind of look, what is that about? Do I have too many things to do? Oh, that's a reminder. I need to plan better for tomorrow, whenever you could change your schedule. Or if there's something on your list, you could go, well, not today. I'm not going to do that today.
I think someone mentioned the power of the pause. Did I hear that right?
Yeah, that was Luciana. She said the power of the pause.
I was gonna, I guess, build on that. Because before I can even, sometimes I can't mentally get myself to calm down. So I think before any of that, I just have to stop. And before I try to calm my thoughts, I have to physically just sit down and take a breath. And then I kind of bring myself back to where I am. And then I can focus on, all right, well, why am I driving myself crazy with all these thoughts, and work my way from there.
Yeah. So that's that's where contemplation comes in, but it does require that pause, stopping, observing. We need to take those steps. So that takes time. So one of the things you have to give your permission, yourself permission to do is to take that time, because it's not a long time. Now, not when we're talking about these momentary things and transitions through your day, as opposed to when you sit quietly to kind of look more deeply at what's going on, so, but some of us live very high-paced lives, and so you really have to give yourself permission to take a little more time, So then you have to think, every now and then you're going to have to think about, why is that worthwhile? Because we won't do something unless we think there's something in it for us, because we kind of go, we're kind of into that. what's in it for us. So we want to use that as a strength in these cases, because we're being motivated to be kinder people. You know, that's a good thing. And if this is what it takes, is this spending a little time, you know, that is giving us that opportunity to do this.
Good morning. Also, after I've kind of gone inside to see where I am, I also try and set an intention for the day.
Yeah.
And sometimes I forget about it right away, or throughout the day, it'll come back to me.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things. So like, just like we do before class, we try to set an intention. So like when you, I mean, you can do, and you can practice this with simple things, like you get in the car and you go, I'd like to arrive alive. I'd like to not have killed anybody on the way. So I really want to be paying attention to driving. You know, so I'm during, you know, while I'm driving, I'm going to be paying attention, you know, so that I can drive well. You know, that can give you practice for times when it's like, okay, I've just gotten home from work. I would like to walk into my home with a loving, happy attitude towards my family, where I really want to spend time with them. I'm glad to be home. I don't want to bring with me whatever worries I have in the day. You might talk about them with someone. I mean, it's not like you're forbidden to have had a bad day, but it's just that remember that, you know, these moments where we can just touch, you know, each other with our hearts, you know, we thrive because of those moments. So it's good to, you know, pause before, you know, we go home, you know, and remember, oh, these are my loved ones. So maybe I'll act like it, you know, not go rush in and then think, you know, all the things that, you know, need to be done or whatever. I don't know. I live alone. I don't have to do this step. I just have to live with myself. That's a lot easier if I notice and then choose how to speak and how to act. Yes, Debbie.
Yeah, I was torn about coming today because I actually was in a car accident a few weeks ago and feeling spooked about driving and very jittery. But felt motivated about wisdom, like even if it was a sentence or two that could be elevating. It just fits in breathing. But what, you know, if I'm home, I just be like watching Netflix or wasting time or something.
Right.
And it helped. And
Yeah, I mean, and that's how it's like me with my trip, you know, like I'm nervous about going to India, you know, but I want to go, you know, it's not that, you know, it's like I want to be there. So you just have to, you know, we have to work with ourselves. So we may feel like the weight of the world's on our shoulders, but we still want to appreciate our loved ones, you know. So we don't want to skip those steps because those steps nurture us, you know. And sometimes what happens, so say you come home, you know, you're sitting in your parking space, you know, in front of your house, and you do all these things, you know, and so you're ready to go home and you open that door, and what are you greeted with? What sometimes happens? That's clear. Nobody else prepared to perceive you with loving open arms, right? Okay. So this is why expectation isn't helpful. Thinking that if we behave well, everybody around us will behave well. It's totally unrealistic. We're trying to learn tools to better behave, you know. But we don't have control how the people around us, what's going on with them. But the more we can prepare our minds, the more open-hearted, the more patient, the more, you know, we can be. So if we come home and, our partner is going crazy with the children, we can, be supportive with that. And not just like, I just got home from work. Be demanding. So we also, so when we're sitting there, preparing our minds, it's like preparing our minds for driving. It's just not like just because you're being mindful, everybody else will be too. In fact, that's even more the reason why you need to be mindful when you're driving. It's like politeness. How easy it can be if you're being polite, somebody else is not, to drop your own politeness. Go, no, enough of this. I didn't, and you elbow your way in. So, we have to go back to that, that intention, that motivation, that I'm doing this, so I am this way. I'm not doing this in order to be rewarded, in order to make sure I get what I want. It's sort of like the way we stereotype politicians, kissing babies or something, that they're just doing all this for show, just to get our vote. So we want to not be like that. We want to develop that intention, that motivation that's inner. This is about how I am, how I'm speaking, how I'm acting, how I'm thinking. And it makes us more available for others. And that's wonderful, because that's how happiness happens. Happiness doesn't come from everything going our way. It comes from, that ability to meet the needs of others.
Even though what we do shouldn't expect everybody else to be wonderful because we are. In reality, how wonderful we are, it does rub off on you, and it does change. If you walk in the house and you don't feed into the craziness, it doesn't escalate.
Maybe.
The chances are it won't escalate.
Well, that's what we have to remember.
I'm not contributing to the escalation.
Right. So, we can bring it back to the fact, we become a condition for things to improve. It's just that if we go walk in with that expectation, we've sabotaged ourselves. And nobody signed a contract with us. You didn't go leave home this morning and get your friends and partners and family go to say, okay, I'm going to do this to make myself a nicer person. So when I come home, you need to be one too. So sign this contract. It's not like that. So, it isn't that it doesn't have an effect. We all know it can have an effect. And also there are times when it has no effect at all, because someone's so caught up in their own whatever is going on, and it may be serious stuff, that they can't take it in. All the more important for us to be steady and stable in our desire to be helpful. Not, like, you're disturbing my peace, I think I'll go for a walk. I mean, you may need to go for a walk, but this kind of keeping score, we want to, try to avoid that habit. I've forgotten your name. You in the green. Roy. Roy was just talking about how it can have an effect. I don't know if y'all can hear the students when they talk. No. Okay. So I'll try to be better. Yes.
For me, it was more like recognizing how much I need to control everything and learning force and giving up that need to control has really helped me.
So learning to pause helped you recognize how much you have a need to control. And discovering that letting go of that need to control, how wonderful that is. For first of all, wanting that control fails. If you want to fail again and again, keep trying to control the people and the events around you. We really don't have control. So this thing of feeling like if I just control everything, everything will be okay is false. It's not true. You don't have the relationships you want if you're trying to control people. It's not a good technique. You ever been to a country where people have, what do you call it, autocratic leaders? You can feel that. There's a difference in the way people even walk around. It's like you can feel the lack of freedom outside, not in their homes. So I really want to appreciate that when we kind of let go of being controlled by our habit energy, how much, how freeing that is. To be able to pause and choose how to react to something or act to something, is a very good feeling. It's this kind of thing like, oh, I can handle it. Does that make sense? So what happens when it's something, how does this help us in times of something big happening that's suffering? So say you lose your job. How can we work with that? Yeah.
That state. That things will change. Remember.
So 2 points. So one is to let go of your identity with this job. So you recognize that you have your self-image caught up with the job. It's important to work on that. And secondly, to remember impermanence. That this loss of a job will end. What else can you work with? Yeah.
The line says you can find peace, calm, and center yourself.
You can find peace and calm and center yourself.
Calm, and center yourself.
Okay, but that takes some work, or it can. If you haven't really developed the habit of being able to be calm in the face of adversity, you have to work to get there. So one of those things that's helpful too, like Gina was saying about not, recognizing if you're over identifying with your job, that somehow, what am I going to be if I'm no longer this? You know, how am I worthwhile if I'm not working? You know, those kinds of things, you know, so because there's so many things going on. There's that going on, your reputation. Oh, I'm unemployed. I lost my job. That can be difficult. Oh, I have no money coming in. Whoa, that can be difficult. You know, so there's a lot of fear around that. You know, and if you think, oh, it was my fault, I'm a bad person because I lost my job. You know, there can be that layer you're dealing with. You know, there are so many, and maybe I'm responsible for all these people in my house. What am I going to do? You know, these are all very difficult things. And so we need to be aware when they're bubbling up. What are we under the grip of? You know, so we can kind of notice, okay, right now I'm under the grip of just fear of finances or fear of not being able to take care. You know, it's addressing that fear. Other times it may be, you know, like I feel like a failure. So it's my reputation thing. And that may, you know, be a different, you need a different strategy to work with that. Yes, Gladys.
I was gonna say that sometimes I notice it's a story. Like I was talking to someone the other day and he was like, well, we won't be able to survive. I kept saying that and I switched to, I think you just have to change your lifestyle. And then he started using the word lifestyle and felt better.
Yeah. So language matters. So being able to recognize the story you're telling yourself and questioning it. Say, maybe that's not what's going to happen. You know, lots of people lose their jobs and survive. Most people lose their jobs and survive. You know, is it your only job you've ever had? You know, oh, you have some evidence maybe that you've been able to get, you know, you got this job. Maybe you can get a different job. You have evidence in your life that you can live on less. You know, so you have to, you know, we have to give ourselves pep talks that are based on facts, not on, you know, just pep talks. They need to be based on facts. You need to kind of look in your own experience and go, oh, look, I handled that. You know, and then some you might be faced with some of these things. You might go, oh, I've never gone through this before. So what can you do with that? Opportunity to learn that just because you've never done it before doesn't mean you're going to fail. There are many things you know, there's always a first time. So, yeah.
And that happens to also that the person wouldn't view yourself as a victim.
Yeah, not seeing yourself as the only person in the world that's ever lost their job. And then it happens all the time. You know, I don't know about the word victim. I have a real, you know, that's a loaded word, you know, because we can all say, oh, well, I was a victim of the recession, you know, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, and that may be true. There may be some truth to that, you know, but it doesn't mean just because we can be hurt doesn't mean we can't keep going. You know, it's like, you know, it's things don't have to define us. Events don't have to define us. Events don't determine whether or not we're going to be miserable. You know, yeah.
I seek wise counsel.
Yes, seeking wise counsel is smart. We don't know it all. So finding help, you know, that is a smart move.
Inspiration, finding inspiration.
Finding inspiration, absolutely. So we have to nurture ourselves when we're going through difficult circumstances. But, you know, it can't always be, you know, like, oh, I think I'll get an ice cream cone, or I'll have a massage, or I'll go to the beach or something. Sometimes we have to just help ourselves be inspired to keep going, you know, without spending any money. You know? So we might not be able to use what we have gotten in the habit of doing when we have little upsets and we just kind of treat ourselves to, oh, because I had a bad day, so I'm gonna, whatever, I'm gonna have dessert tonight. Who was it? It was that woman who had that stroke. There was a neuroscientist, a researcher, Jill had that stroke. And she was interviewed by Oprah, and she said, she was talking about that morning when the stroke occurred. And then she kind of got, oh, I don't feel so good. My head hurts. So I'll get on the treadmill and maybe I'll feel better. And Oprah went, what? I can so relate. We want to be the person who gets on the treadmill to feel better, So we want to look at our habits that supposedly comfort us that backfire, like I ate a box of cookies over the weekend. Big mistake. Don't recommend it. It's not a good coping strategy. I was trying to pack and it was like, oh, I just need another cookie. I just need another cookie. First mistake was buying the stupid cookies. Second mistake was thinking they were going to help, and they don't help. It's so stupid. I spilled water all over me.
Eating the wrong cookie, that's all.
Yeah. That may be true. But I just eat the whole box of those two. So this is quite a long list of things to do, right? You're worth it. We need to understand taking care of our mental health is worth it, because our mental health determines how we act towards others. So it's not even all about you. The world works better if we take care of ourselves in a healthy way. We don't actually want to do things we'll regret later. And we need to nurture that. If our habit energy ends up, where we're always doing things that's sort of like, like eating a box of cookies, we want to recognize that that's not a good habit. And try to do something about it. All of these require noticing. You have to notice how you're feeling and how you're responding to it. And then being able to recognize we can pause and choose differently. Will it be easy? No, sometimes it's easy. Most of the time, it takes a little effort until it becomes a habit, and then it becomes easier. So if your habit is to notice, to pause, notice, and then choose, when that becomes a habit, it's easy. But we have to learn it. Because right now something happens and we react. Not always, So we have the capacity. We already know we have the capacity because we don't always just act out.
How does the saying, I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, Supreme Assembly, how does that relate to us taking refuge in what we do have after our house burns down? I'm still, my body's okay, or I have some friends that's taking refuge in what we do have.
Well, and taking refuge in the teachings, what you understand about survival and, your mind and what really leads to happiness helps us. That's what the teachings are about. The teachings aren't about, oh, I can come save you. The teachings are about, I can teach you how to work with your mind so you can save yourself. It's just, and that we have, what did you call it, Luciana? Wise counsel. you have wise counsel to turn to, so, and sometimes you need, wise counsel, like in a financial advisor, so it's just, but, this is the thing. If we can pause and just go, oh, I know how I'd like to behave, so I'm taking this opportunity to give myself space to figure it out.
A close friend, mentor, someone
Yeah.
you trust, that I'm not talking about a lawyer, maybe a lawyer, but a wife, your mother, your sister, somebody that's.
Well, I call them reality checks,
If they're wise.
that's the thing. That's why we want to develop our own wisdom, because sometimes the person we turn to just feeds our bad habits, so to speak.
That's why it has to be wise counsel.
Yep. And we have to know the difference. And that's a learning process. Yeah, if we're angry about something, we can find a friend who will support that anger. Oh, you're so right. You want to continue feeling miserable with anger? Go right ahead, So we need to be able to turn to people that we know can be honest with us, with gentleness, with kindness, with love and compassion and all those things, where we can, and then we have to really understand that we have some wisdom inside. I have a nun that I text with, just like, are you alive? I'm alive. Are we alive? That became important to me when I live alone, and then I would do like 3-month retreats at home, so I wouldn't actually see anybody, or it's sort of like, okay, I'm going to need to just text you every now and then. If you haven't heard from me in a couple of days, just text me and see if I respond. So we know I'm still breathing, and we need reality checks like that too, where we think, oh, am I losing my mind, or is it reasonable that I need to do this or need to do that? And sometimes we just need a reality check that we're worthwhile. We need that hug. But the more we can develop that within, where we are that person, the stronger our habits can become. We won't be so roller coastery in our lives where we go up and down depending on what's happening. We can give ourselves that calm and peace that are so helpful when crises arise. So understanding that our disturbing emotions, do people know what I mean by disturbing emotions? Why do we call them disturbing? Those of you in the know of Buddhist jargon. Surely someone knows.
Like the disturbing of a peace of mind, negative emotion, like the sadness, anxiety.
So disturbing emotions are simply those that when they arise in the mind, make the mind very unpeaceful. So what we would call love can be a disturbing emotion when it's full of clingy attachment, like when we're infatuated, and we're living on that excited energy of infatuation, which, may or may not turn out well, So it's not just anger, ones that are easy to spot. It's recognizing, oh, my mind, we all can feel it in our bodies as well. It's agitated at the moment. Beware. It's like a danger signal, Oh, even, and it doesn't mean we can't feel excited or we can't, I mean, that's not what it's about, but it's about recognizing we really need to be careful when we're agitated, because there's no wisdom when we're agitated. That's the thing about states of mind, according to Buddhism, that when like anger arises, anger and wisdom don't occupy the same space. Anger and love don't occupy the same space. We can alternate very rapidly between, as we all know, but they can't occupy the same state of mind. They're not compatible. Yes, Bijan.
So even disturbing emotions that make us feel good, is the danger in that the fact that we forget that that's impermanent, so then we get stuck on it, like
Well,
we're attached to it.
Yeah. Did everybody hear that? Okay. So yeah, so sometimes we want to be aware that the experience of feeling good, when it agitates the mind, there are dangers in it, that it's like, we can cling. I want to feel this way, and then when it passes, we get depressed. It's like, that, like early on in relationships when everything's glorious, and then slowly reality sets in, and if you're not open to reality, that can end a relationship, because what you're really in love with is that feeling of infatuation. So we need to be aware of that. It can be a condition for clinging. Pleasure is not a problem. It's our grasping after it, thinking that somehow it's a meaningful happiness, and it's not. It's like usually sensory pleasure, which is very inadequate and doesn't last long. So it's like when you're being a good parent, trying to be a good parent, and you really want your child to choose this rather than that, but it actually isn't going to hurt them, whichever way they choose, and you have to let go of your own desire for them to choose what you want them to choose. That's clinging. That's contaminating the affection you have, the love that you have, that wish that they are happy. Because now it's suddenly you wish they were happy, but only in the ways you approve, that you want, that reflects well on you, or whatever nonsense we have, And sometimes we actually manipulate each other to make sure it happens that way. We have a good argument in our favor, and we'll share it. And we don't even realize that actually what we're trying to do is control someone else's choices. So that's what makes it not a positive state of mind. It's the stuff that's contaminating it. This does not mean we don't need to guide our children or guide ourselves, or, It just means we need to recognize, oh, I'm clinging now. Because there's no wisdom in that. It's the clinging that's the problem. And it takes practice to be able to be aware when that's creeped in. Sometimes it's obvious. Sometimes even in your own mind, you're going, why am I pushing this issue? Why am I, and you just can't stop yourself. So, but sometimes it's more subtle than that. So the more we're observant and recognize agitation in the mind, then we can kind of go, okay, what's up? Am I clinging? Where I use where am I in this picture? You know, where's the I that wants this, doesn't want that? Where is my I in this state of mind that's feeling a little agitated? And that works for me. So, and if you can step out, you know, it kind of go, okay, if I take my I out of it, what would it look like? You know, would I change what I'm saying or what I'm doing? And all these things take practice. You have to remember to do it. You have to notice, you have to recognize that, oh, that's right. When I'm agitated, there's a danger that there be no wisdom there. Like like we see this in movie scenes, you know, where there's a couple and you know, then someone meets someone else, you know, and there's that little spark between those other people, and then they, you know, they get carried away by that and they end up having an affair and losing their relationship and that's all terrible, you know, because in movies, you know, you hope that you know, bad actions lead to bad results. You don't hope that happens in your life, but you know, you can see it. So like they get carried away. We need to recognize when we're getting carried away, and you know, we can see it with our impatience pretty easily. You know, we're getting carried away with, you know, and it can become anger. But recognizing these points, you know, these states of mind that are different. And first, it's just about looking. What am I under the influence of? And discerning that I'm being driven by this desire to control. I'm being driven by this desire to get what I want. I'm being driven by this desire to look good. You know, because we sacrifice our integrity to get those things. And that incongruence with, you know, how we'd like to be and how we're being, you know, causes us suffering. This makes sense. So the more we observe, we might see patterns. You know, you might see that, you know, your self-esteem issues are kind of crop up all the time. Your desire to control crops up all the time. Your desire not to feel uncomfortable. You know, maybe you don't try new things because it makes you uncomfortable. Maybe you're lonely and you never get out because it's uncomfortable, you know, because change is uncomfortable. Trying something new could be uncomfortable, you know. So being uncomfortable doesn't give us information about the usefulness or whatever, you know. But we want to notice. And then we want to go, why? And then, you know, we want to, like, what is it that I think the Japanese do, 7 whys or 5 whys or something. I find that very helpful. And I tend to have to go the I, you know, I'm looking for that I. Why do I? You know, why do I? And then I keep going. And sometimes I get smacked up with, you know, oh, it's your reputation again. You know, oh, it's just because you like that. You want it. You know, oh, just because I want to get even. You know? Because we don't like what we see. But it's not about that. It's about recognizing when you see, you can choose. If you just keep operating on remote control, you cannot choose. And sitting, you know, just you know, something, so sitting with your patterns, you know, kind of looking, going, oh, you know, I always feel so tight when whatever, you know, and kind of go and, you know, take a few deep breaths and kind of look at that. What's going on with that? Because we do carry our habits from a long time, you know, we can, you know, so we just need to be aware that, do we really want to keep carrying that? You know, my father, when I was a kid, he taught my brothers things he wouldn't teach me, like how to use power tools, because, and he would just say this out loud, you know, I'm sorry, but if a girl loses a finger, she'll never get married. You know, it's just hilarious, you know, nowadays, but you know, it was just infuriate me. But now, you know, when I became an adult, it was really scary for me to pick up anything that, you know, could cut your finger off. You know, it was just like, okay, you know, like self-fulfilling prophecy. So, you know, so, well, you know, it's not like I grew up and was determined to learn how to use a table saw, you know, but, you know, it's just interesting. Just, you know, recognizing that we, you know, carry things that we might not agree with. If we take our adult mind and look, you know, and we can let go of that and kind of laugh about it. You know, I'm sure my dad had a relative that did that and became the old maid, and he just decided that, you know, can't live with that, you know, because that wouldn't be like my so we want to look at, what is this saying, this saying about my belief system, and is it true? You know, because we may be carrying around some habit that's based on something that we don't even believe. You know, we picked it up somewhere and we're still carrying it. Oh. So this habit, you know, what's become very in vogue, you know, this mindfulness habit is very useful, you know, of allowing yourself to slow down just enough to at least notice what you're doing, how you're feeling, what you're thinking, what's driving you, so that then you can choose, you know. But it's a process of learning to look, and often it's after the fact, you know, you'll say something, or you'll, you know, do something, you know, like maybe you run a red light or something, you know, which you normally don't do or something, and you just kind of go, what is that about? What am I doing? Oh, and that's okay if it's after the fact, you know. It's just because we want to develop a habit of being much more observant all day long. And again, remember, this isn't a test. It's not like, oh, I can't believe I'm still doing that. That's not helpful, you know. It's just, we just want to know. And every now, I remember reading Thubten Children. In fact, one time she said, you know, like, okay, so 3,217 times when you had the opportunity, you know, not to eat the cookie, you know, you ate the cookie, and then on that 3,000 whatever, you know, moment, you didn't eat the cookie. We want to notice those too, and we want to build on those. You know, she didn't use the example of a cookie. It's just, I forgot what she used. So, you know, this is the process, you know, of being gentle with ourselves, but paying attention. We want to pay attention and not let what we discover become an obstacle, because we can't change it until we discover it. You know? So we want to rejoice when we discover it, because that means we noticed. That's a habit I want, and I want that habit because I want to choose how I respond. Yeah, did I tell you all my favorite story of last week? This is like 3 weeks ago. So I don't know if I've told you this story. I may have told one or two of you this story. So there's this place in Louisiana that's a retirement home for research chimpanzees. They had been owned or, often by like the National Institutes of Health, in other words, they were being used for medical research. Some of them were focused on cognition or behaviors. That's just kind of interesting. So the sanctuary is on 200 forested acres. And it's just for them to retire to, live out the rest of their days, But the weather has become very extreme, right? So they realized they were going to have trouble getting the chimpanzees to safety if there was a wildfire. So now they hold drills for the chimpanzees to learn what to do when they're in danger. So they have an alarm, and they train the chimpanzees how to respond to the alarm so that they will do what they need to do to get them safe. And the fact that someone thought of this, that's the result of mindfulness. That's the result of thinking, not after the fact, but before the fact. This could happen. What do we want to do about it? There might be a solution to this. Because you could look at it and go, oh, that's going to be terrible, and stop there. Instead of coming up and trying different things to have it, to help them. And they succeeded so far. I mean, they managed to train the chimpanzees to respond to the alarm. So when they tested it out, and within 10 seconds, they got all the chimpanzees into their shelter. They're much faster than we are. They probably didn't have to pack. Oh, let me grab my phone. Oh, let me grab...
Right.
You know what they used? Was it a reward?
I don't know, because I didn't save this page
I wonder.
before it updated, and I lost half the page. So, that's a reminder. I just did it this morning. Oh, Microsoft Word needs to update, And I'm sure something came up that said, do you want to save the changes in this? And I just ignored it, because I was in a hurry. Okay, not smart. But it was a training exercise. They had to learn some behavior and clues and all that stuff. Just like, you train us, to respond to fire alarms. So, something beyond annoyance. So, but they may have done something like treats. I can't remember. Anyways, but the point is, it takes, this kind of action comes from, seeing things, like not just seeing, wildfires as a problem, but seeing it as something that needs a solution. Because if we get stuck in the problem and just see it as a problem and see it as an overwhelming problem and seeing we won't do anything to improve the situation, you know, and we can. There's usually things we can do to improve situations. Can we fix all problems? No. Can we save all lives? No. But we certainly can make things better, you know. And so thinking about those kinds of things, so like if we're facing an overwhelming problem that isn't ours, like climate change, you know, it's not like someday, climate change arises and we have to go, oh my gosh, I have to fix that. We can't, that's not in our thing, but who can fix it?
Everyone collectively.
All of us together can fix it, and so we have to look for activities that are already happening that maybe we can participate in, or support in some way, so when they, so there's always something we actually can do that's helpful, but we have to get out of ourselves to do that. We can't just get stuck in the fear of what might happen to me, or mine, what can I do? So that's why I follow good news on Instagram. There's one called Happy Network. It's really good. So, but it's all about solutions that people are doing about, all the different kinds of world problems. So it's cool. But working on our mind is key. Being, having a reflective mind, observing, choosing, recognizing we can choose how we act. Recognizing that with that kind of habit, we can change how we think. We can learn not to be angry just because something didn't go our way. And boy, you're prone to anger, that reduces your suffering a lot. We can choose to not cling, to cookies as a source of comfort. We can change our minds. It doesn't mean we won't have anger arise. It just means, we won't give it any play. We'll recognize that it can end and that we're better off when it ends. As opposed to calling our friend and going, you won't believe what happened, which just feeds it. All right. Another week. So take a moment. Feel your body in the chair. And check on your mind. Where's your mind right now? If it's agitated, allow yourself to breathe. And bring to mind whatever you're going to do this afternoon. How can you prepare your mind for that? And what way would you like to prepare your mind for that? Spending time with loved ones, how can you, what kind of intention can you set for that activity? If you're running errands, What kind of intention can you set for that? Let me picture yourself doing that. Imagine any obstacle arising. Just imagine yourself being okay with the obstacle. Maybe you were hoping to have a quiet afternoon and that's not going to happen. Maybe you can't get one of your chores done. Whatever it is, just imagining you handling that without it disturbing your mind. Know that you have the capacity to work with your mind. There's evidence in your life that you can do this. There's evidence that you've changed behavior. But have confidence in this. Now remember the intention you set at the beginning of this class. Pat yourself on the back for following through, or whatever positive efforts, participating, for listening, for reflecting. Make the wish that it benefits you, and then it ripples out to benefit others. So now we'll recite the dedication prayers. And we use visualization a lot in Buddhism as a way to sort of practice things. It really makes a difference to imagine yourself doing something differently. It can help. So if you're worried about an event, picture it in your mind and picture you handling all the different things. And if the event comes around, it may help you. Just like we were talking about, if that if we walk into a room with a positive mind, that can be beneficial to others. We want to give ourselves that same, positive mind. And sometimes it helps to use our imagination to do it, because then we can really think out a strategy. Oh, if this is said to me, how could I respond, at least in my mind, to counter any agitation that might arise, or prevent the agitation from arising. So now we're going to recite, we're going to make the wish that our whatever positive actions we've done with our body, speech, or mind, that it results in benefit for all beings. So go ahead, Nana, or whoever does the end prayers, and scroll down. Thank you. May all beings everywhere plagued by sufferings of body and mind obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, and those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then, may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. And our prayers for the long life of His Holiness. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Chenrezig, Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. And then the prayer for the swift return of Lama Zopa Rinpoche, peerless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious ones, Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, victorious Lozan father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands. Please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now, holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice. You wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and for mother living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three jewels and the great ways of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious one, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples. So thanks very much. Are there any announcements?
Yes, there are a few announcements.
Why don't you come up here and talking to the, so they can hear you as well.
So September 17th will be Venerable Tendren's last teaching before her trip. So we hope that you will all come and wish her a lovely journey
On every Sunday before that too.
Yes, yes. But just letting you know, that will be her last teaching before her trip. And while she's gone, we have some things planned. We're going to have a Meditation 101 class. And Anthony's signing out. Sorry. So we're going to have a Meditation 101 class, and we're going to do some other things. And then Venerable Tendren will be coming back. She has agreed to do another series for us when she gets back. And also October 27th, 28th, and 29th, we're so fortunate. We're going to have Yangtze Rinpoche is coming, and we're having a Medicine Buddha retreat and an initiation of Medicine Buddha. So we hope you will hold your calendar open. That is going to be held at the Unitarian Universalist Church in Boca Raton. And they're hopefully within the next week, I'll have the registration open. And then beyond that, we're going to, the next couple of weeks, we'll have more details on the website. We don't have all the details yet because we're working with Rinpoche's people, and some things just take time to organize. We are going to have all kinds of amazing opportunities for people to help out physically and financially, the cause to create some merit, because right now working, it looks like it's going to cost between $8,000 and $9,000 for us to do this. So we want to, if you're not in a financial position to be able to help, we still, or even to pay for registration, we still want it to be open to you. So we're hoping that the people that have created the cause to have resources in this life will continue that for the future by continuing to be generous so that others can benefit. So all of this, there will be more details, and then we're going to be having a little get together within the next few weeks for people who would like to participate to make this happen. It's a very unusual and rare opportunity, and it's something that we don't get a lot. So we're really, really grateful that this is happening.
And if you have no clue what we're talking about, like an initiation, so, they are also called empowerments. And what it does is empower you by making, your recitation of like the Medicine Buddha mantra more powerful.